So last year, my parents came to visit my sister and I here in Canada for the first time. And I must tell you, it was one of the most beautiful but also intense experience that I've ever had. So if you're thinking of bringing your older parents to visit you here in Canada, especially if they're not seasoned travelers, then this video is for you. I'm going to be telling you things that you don't necessarily think about when you're planning for their trip that you honestly should pay some more attention to. So hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ify and this is Ify's Beats. On this channel I share my life with you here in Canada as a Nigerian now turned Canadian living in Canada. If you like that sort of thing, please like, subscribe, share, comment, engage. If you're watching for the first time, thank you. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you again. Okay, let's get it straight into the video. So for me, I think number one thing that my sister and I took into consideration when my parents were visiting was weather. Weather is such a big thing. So if your parents are visiting Canada for the first time, they're probably interested in experiencing the snowfall. But on the flip side, Canada gets really, really cold, especially the province we're in, Alberta. So we had to honestly consider if, for the sake of experiencing Canadian winter, did we want to risk them getting cold or falling ill because of how cold Canada gets. So eventually we decided to go for early summer. I don't think they got to experience any snow. I think by the time they came, all the snow was done. But honestly, I was more comfortable with that. You want to actively consider the weather that your parents are coming to visit in. Yes, it's nice if they get to see snow, but you are afraid that they might fall because you have to get them the right gear. Also, you know how it is here in Canada with the winter, they have to always layer up. So each time you have to take them out during the winter, you are thinking of them wearing these heavy layers, which they might honestly find stressful. So depending on how active and agile they might be, I think it's something you have to think about clearly, especially if this is their first visit, if it's something you want them to go through. So for my parents, I think the best decision we took was early summer. And even early summer, they honestly found it too cold. So I will say my preference is summer just because it's less risky. You're worried about less things. And my parents did enjoy walking around the neighborhood. The trees were starting to bloom. My mom really enjoyed that, seeing the birds, seeing the bunnies, seeing people walking their dogs. She loved that a lot. She would sit down, both of them would sit down on my balcony and look around. So my preference honestly would be summer anytime, just because it's just less risky and less stressful. But yeah, so you want to put some thought into it. I would say depending on how strong they are should determine what your preference would be, but you have to consider all the things that really comes with winter and if you want them to experience all that. So another thing is travel insurance. I think this one is very, very important. We know here in Canada that healthcare is not covered for visitors. Permanent residents, citizens, we have free healthcare, and you have a job, your insurance is covering your medication. And lab tests are also free most of the time. So you have to definitely get them health insurance. My parents stayed for a reasonable amount of time. I think it was just over a month. So we got them health insurance. I didn't want to take any risk because it's very expensive to see a doctor here. And you don't want to take any risk at all, so that you don't want to, you're already spending a lot of money on the trip. So I think the best option is to get health insurance. I remember I googled mine and I think I went with an affordable option, and since the trip wasn't too long, and they were in good health, I made sure that they did a lot of health checks before they embarked on the trip. We made sure to do that, so I wasn't too overly worried about their state, but I still wanted to make sure they had health insurance, travel health insurance, so that God forbid anything had happened, I would be able to take them to the hospital. And even though I'm paying out of pocket still, but I'll be able to hopefully recover at least some of my money. So I think that's one thing you should do for them, get them health insurance. It's better to be safe than to be sorry. Some people have had really negative experiences because they did not pay for health insurance for their parents. Number 3 is the trip itself. Honestly, this should be number 1, but I forgot it when I was arranging it on my list. I forgot to put it as number 1. Now, for the trip itself, if they are seasoned travelers, you are good to go. They will be able to make the trip from Nigeria to Canada without you having any worry. But if they are not seasoned international travelers, then you are heavily stressed because you're worried that it's such a long distance. You don't want them to miss their gates, all that layover. You are just like, you're really afraid that they will just get confused. Confusion aside, another thing is because of their health, if they are not very strong, you're worried that will they be able to do all the long walks in the airport. One option you have is to get wheelchair service for them. So I don't think I was able to book it online, but I think I called the airline that I used and got wheelchair service. My mom didn't like that at all because she was like, I'm very agile, I can walk around. She likes to walk around as a form of exercise, so she didn't care for the wheelchair service. But my dad did use the wheelchair service. Why that wheelchair service was very helpful was because the flight staff are wheeling them away, so they have shortcuts. I believe that they're not using the regular routes that other passengers are using, and then they're taking them directly to their gate. So it also helps you not have to worry about them finding their gates, like, oh yeah, because some of those airports, they can be so huge. You're like, hey god, I hope these people were able to find the gates. That was one of my worries in the beginning, but once I booked the wheelchair service and realized that they would be wheeled to their gates, it solved that problem. So it's an option, and especially if they're older, they're going to give it. As far as your parents are older people, they're going to consider it. Everyone knows that, like, with older people, they need more care. So yeah, I think if they're not seasoned travelers, or if they have any health conditions, honestly, with how big some of those airports are, just book them wheelchair service, reserve it. Like, even if they don't want to use it, that's fine, but I think it's nice if it's an option, so that you have some peace of mind during their flight. So another important thing that you should think about actively is health. This one is different from health insurance, so their health in general. So how are they, what's their state like? So number one thing on their health is their current state before leaving your home country. So Nigeria, for example, what is their current state of health? For us, my sister and I made sure that they tried to do their health checkups before they left, so that we made sure they were in a good state. Another thing that we also looked into was making sure that they had enough supply for their medication that would last them during their stay here. Always try to make sure that they have enough on a normal day. So I think that wasn't a stressful thing. They just make sure that my siblings packed enough for their stay here, so we didn't have to think about it. Then also for their health, just being aware of their current states helps you plan better. A lot of times I've had a lot of friends realize that their parents were in worse health than they expected, and they realized it when they landed, which means that you are having to provide more care than you were expecting. Like, if you realize that your parents they are not in as good health condition as you were expecting, it can turn the whole trip around. Like, it can mess up the whole trip because you are worried, you are having to spend more time caring for them. I've seen situations where people planned for Omugo, and then the mom would come, and then you find out that the mom needs even more care than the baby. So you have to, put your eye down, find out their current state of health, especially if you've not seen them in a very long time, because they're getting older every day. So it's something, the way you're getting older, they are getting older. So it's something to like actively pay attention to. What is their state of health? Making sure that they have enough medication. And honestly, other like health devices like BP machine, if they have diabetes, blood sugar, whatever thing that they need to help monitor their health. You can also buy quality ones here also and assist them in checking those things. But as much as possible, they should come with the ones they already have to Canada to make it easier for you. So, and the next thing is the financial aspects. This is so important because just like every project, you go into it thinking you're going to spend A, then you spend Z. This can be a very financially heavy project to embark on, and I'm lucky I have my sibling here. My point is there are so many things to think about when they're here. Groceries. I think for me, honestly, I underestimated how much it was going into the whole process, because it was my first time. We're all just focused on let them be comfortable on their flights, or we've stocked the house with groceries. I don't think it was too bad for us, but for some people, like it can take a toll, especially depending on how much you're earning at the time. So I think it's something you have to actively plan for. If possible, I advise you have some money saved down specifically for that trip, like the groceries that will cover the trip. With Nigeria, with them going back, you're probably going to be buying stuff for them to take back, to share at home. Put that into your plan. People are going to want to come and visit and buy, especially if your parents are in active service. If they are not retired yet, they're going to go to the office and say, I just visited Canada, and they're going to be sharing stuff. So honestly, put that in your budget. Like that. My point is, there are so many things. How your family is. Who your parents are. My parents are very simple people. They were easy, but who your mom is. Who your dad is. So put that into consideration when planning your finances. Don't think it's just food and what else? What's the second thing? Food and flights. Think about it very holistically. If you are taking them out, it's going to cost you money. Where are you taking them to? There are so many things that they are going to creep up on you, and especially if it's even more shocking when it's a short stay. Long stay is like you're expecting it, but short stays you're like, I didn't even think of this. There were times when I'll be like, oh shoot, I didn't even think of this. When I was planning this. So yeah, it's a project. It's a full financial project. If you're fully sponsoring the trip, it's basically someone is coming on vacation on your dime. So think about it clearly and plan. My point is just plan very well for that aspect of the trip, the financials, bearing in mind how your parents are and the things you're hoping to provide for them during that stay. Another thing is feeding. I think feeding is very important. I've made this a separate point from financials, because with feeding, it depends on their state of health. Do they have dietary restrictions? If they have dietary restrictions, it's something you have to consider, because if you, as a younger person, easy for us, we know what we're eating. Like, I can go hungry and go and say, I can go to bed hungry. It's not that deep. But your parents are older. You want them to be in good health. You don't want to have to rush them to the ER. Nobody wants to experience the ER. Myself, I don't want to experience ER. Not talk of my older parents. So you want to make sure you have food for them. So that, I think that part was one of the hardest parts, just making sure that their diet was good and they were comfortable. So I think it's something to actively think about, their food. You're going to spend a lot of weekends just meal prepping, especially if you're going to work, if you're actively going to the office, you're going to spend a lot of your time meal prepping, making sure that food is ready for them to eat. What is your schedule like? How am I going to meal prep for my parents? So I'm saying this because I didn't plan, I don't know how to explain. We didn't think about it actively. We were just thinking we're just adding people to our schedule. But we weren't thinking about the fact that, okay, these people might have different dietary needs to ours. I remember we asked for a food list before they came, but honestly, I still think we were very underprepared for how much effort it was going to take to feed people that had dietary restrictions. So I think it's something to actively think about. Then another thing, this one is on a very lighter note, is their entertainment. Here in Canada, you obviously don't have access to Nigerian channels. The option we had as at that time was IPTV, and we did subscription for one IPTV. Everything was going fine, but just closer to their trip, I think that IPTV lost all the DSTV channels that they usually had, which became a problem for us, because we're like, we couldn't find a solution for that one. I don't know. So when they came on, unfortunately, we couldn't get them their typical Nigerian channels that they could watch. So we were stuck with rotating between YouTube, and luckily for me, my mom watches other things. She watches she likes wrestling, she likes keeping up with the Kardashians. So we were able to put some of those sort of things, and then put some Nigerian movies from YouTube, and then they would watch Channels TV live. But I wasn't very pleased, because I knew that the IPTV, before it lost all the DSTV channels, they could watch a whole lot of things on that IPTV. So I was not happy about that one. So before they visit again, I'll probably make better plans for their entertainment. But anyways, that was what we had. So I think it's something to think about. What do they watch? What are you going to entertain them with? If you're going to the office, they are going to have to keep busy while you're away. So think about what you would use to entertain them while you're in the office. The next thing is planning their schedule for while they're time that they're here. So for me, it wasn't a very long trip. I said it was just over a month. And the nice thing is, if they've not visited a city before, they're older, they're not as agile as they used to be. So you don't need to go over the top. And my parents have said they're very simple people. They enjoy just watching. Like, summer can be very beautiful here in Alberta. It's very sunny. It's lovely. If it's not too cold, when they were not complaining of the cold, they were just loved looking around, and everything was blooming. But generally, just taking them around the city was a nice touch. We planned things like taking the city train. We don't have a lot of very good city trains in Nigeria. I think we have the one operating in Lagos, and then we have the Abuja Kaduna train. But I think when those ones started functioning, I think my parents had already gotten older. I don't think any of them has entered those trains now. But I think my mom entered train when she was much younger, and I don't think she liked the experience then, because anytime you mention the Nigerian train system, she would remind you of an experience she had long ago. But that being said, we took them on the city train. We took them to Banff in Alberta. Banff is really beautiful. That one was a day trip. We didn't do too much. It was more of scenery looking. They looked around, they came back. We took them to Elk Island here in Alberta. I think that one was actually more enjoyable than the Banff trip, because the Banff trip was so long, it was very stressful. But the Elk Island was like a 2-hour or 1-hour car drive from the city. So they liked Elk Island. We actually had a long list, but when they arrived, realized that they didn't have as much energy for all the because prepping them to go out was a lot, because they would have to get ready, they have to get into the car. It's like prepping younger people, it's like prepping young kids. They will get ready, get into the car, and they are heavily dependent on your plans. So in a way, it takes a lot of efforts to get them ready to go out on those trips. So we didn't exhaust the list. If they come again, there's still so many other places we weren't able to take them to. And this is another reason why financials is a thing, because you have to account for the expenses that taking them out might cost you. I think the cheapest thing was just going grocery shopping. I think I printed some of the pictures for my mom. That one was very simple. She actually enjoyed just going to Walmart and looking around. And the first one, which is going through the city with the city train, she liked that one. So that one was a very cheap excursion of some sorts. But yeah, plan where the activities they will do. If they're very agile, you get to do a lot. If they're not, just a few will be fine. Another thing to consider is jet lag, recovery, time difference. I feel like throughout the trip, my parents didn't recover from jet lag. I felt like they were always operating on Nigerian time. I watched the camera and I feel like they have slept when Nigerians are sleeping, and they are awake when Canadians are going to bed. But the thing is, they're retired, so most of the time, I don't think even in Nigeria they follow normal schedule. They're not going to work the next day, so they're basically just sleeping and waking up whenever they feel like. So I don't know if it's just the jet lag, or if it's because they don't really have a very tight structure in Nigeria as well. But that's also something to consider, that they'll be jet lagged. I know the first few days they were sleeping at odd hours. You have to actively come and wake them up to come and have their breakfast, or you have to try to let them know that you need to sleep so you can get some rest. It's already night here, it's daytime there. Also, they were trying to adjust to how bright it was getting quite early, because I think as at the time they had come, we're already having longer days because it was early summer. So that one was they were oh my god, it's really bright. Even myself, I'm still adjusting to how bright it gets in the summer, far into the night. So yeah, that one was a light-hearted thing. It wasn't serious. Another one is that's very important is technology. How technology savvy are your parents? So my parents aren't like serious tech people, so that one was very stressful. So one of the things we did was I had my sibling buy them a travel plan, an MTN travel plan, so that they will be able to call me at a cheaper rate while they were in transit. They didn't really need me while they were in transit because, as I said, they had that wheelchair access, so everything was moving smoothly. It was me that was stressing unnecessarily. But I got the MTN travel plan. It's not very expensive. I think it's about 20k for 7 days, or sorry, I think 10k for 7 days. It's very cheap in Canadian dollars, so I bought that for them. But that aside, my parents, as I said, they're not tech savvy people. They're not going to be operating smartphone or doing anything crazy. But the thing is, while they are here, they were mostly in my home, so there wasn't any serious reason to have to call them, because the only time we were away from them was when I was at work and my sister wasn't able to work from our home and she had to go into her office. So that was the only time we'd be like, oh, we're away from them, or how are they doing? But I do have cameras in my home, so I was able to like check on them sometimes and be like, okay, they're in the sitting room now, they're relaxing, so that's fine. So I would check up on them using the camera. And then there's also the option of calling Alexa with your phone. You can call your Alexa at home with your phone. So I did that a couple of times. I would call Alexa. So if they were watching TV in the sitting room and I wanted to give them a message, I would call Alexa. And there's a way, my spouse did all the configuration. I don't know how he did it, but it's very simple if you have the Alexa app. So I would dial them. It's like you are dialing a phone. So I didn't have to necessarily dial my mom's phone, because my mom doesn't operate her phone. So you'll be calling her, she's not with the phone. Sometimes, honestly, I don't know if she remembered where the phone was during the trip. So I would, and if they wanted to speak to people in Nigeria, they would just use my phone. So like calling her phone was pointless. So my solution was, that my spouse found, was calling Alexa. So I would call Alexa, and then she could hear me, I could hear her. Then I would be watching the camera and listen to her talk to me, even though there was a little bit of lag. So that was my solution for that aspect, going through the camera and calling the phone. Then for while they were in transit, it was using the MTN travel plan. My sister tried to work from home a couple of times. She made her schedule as flexible as she could, so that she could also be around with them while we were in the office. And yeah, it was not, honestly, that part wasn't as stressful as I thought it was. I worried about it unnecessarily, but it was pretty easy to handle. So try to just figure out the technology in your home. If you have a home camera system and your Alexa, you're going to be able to reach them. And if they're tech savvy, you don't have that issue, you can just call them on WhatsApp. I think that was just a thing for me, because my mom isn't, my parents aren't like techie people. Another one is, this one is very important. I feel like this one is honestly one of the most important ones. Your free time. Like, your free time. Like, what is your plan for how are you going to cope with their stay? Now, this one still boils back to how independent are they. Independence doesn't even have to do with just health situation. Like, how much help do they get at home? Some people's families, some people's parents have, helps at home. They have cooks, they have drivers. People with that much help in their old age they're not very independent. All they have to do is call someone to come and move stuff for them. Then some people's parents, they don't have a lot of help, but they are also older and they're ill, so they still need a lot of care. So you have to actively consider your schedule while planning the trip. So this was one part that was I struggled with, because I was like, oh, do I take all my vacation days while they're around? But the problem with that is I'm using my vacation days to basically work, because while they're around, I'm doing a lot of errands, cooking, making sure that I'm meeting up with their dietary restrictions, taking them out. So it means I've used my vacation for the year to work instead of getting some rest. So I think you have to find the balance. For me, it was like I took a couple of days, but I didn't use all my vacation days while they were here, because I wanted to also take some time off to get some rest when they returned. So I think that's something to consider. So why I'm saying this is because people bring their parents for omugo, and they are not considering the state of their parents. Sometimes they're not even aware that their parents are no longer as agile as they used to be able to do all that work. Maybe all the mom can do is bath the baby, and then at the end of the day you're stuck with caring for a baby and caring for an older parent. So I think that's something you have to actively think of. Anyway, I digress, but the main thing is think of your own schedule with all the things you're going to be doing, depending on how much care they need and how independent they are. You need to think about it, especially if it's a short trip. Sometimes they might not even get around to figuring out where stuff is in your kitchen, so you are the one cooking all the time from scratch. I know some people whose parents were able to come, cook all the food for them, care for them, like everything was, their parents were basically caring for them. They even missed it, while in some people's case they were the ones doing all the care. So you have to actively consider your schedule when planning the trip. You might genuinely need some time off to be able to take care of them, and you might also need some time off to rest after they've returned back to Nigeria. So I think that's something to pay a lot of attention to. And I think I've covered most of it. The only last one is expectations. This one is specifically for that Omugwo thing I was talking about again. Set expectations. What are you expecting? Talk to them as much as possible. With my parents, it was easy because, as I said, my parents are very simple people. Even in Nigeria, they just love being at home, watching TV. They are not like, they've never been like doing too much activities. Honestly, the activities they were able to do was us that forced them to do it, because they're like, you're in Canada, let's go and do something. So, what are you going to tell people when you go home? What did you do? We're the ones that actually force them to sort of maximize their trip. But my point is, set expectations. You are expecting someone to come and do a Omugwo for you. You don't know if they can move around. Some people can even move around, but they don't want to do the work. They are tired. Some people are not tired. They can do the work, but they don't want to do the work. You on your own end, you're expecting that they can cook for themselves. They can do this, they can do that. Are you the one that is going to be setting the table all the time? Are you the one that all you have to do is just bring out the food and put it in the microwave? Do you know if they can cook for themselves? Do you know if they can climb the stairs? Do you have to give them the downstairs bedroom? Like, there are so many things, but set expectations. Know what they're expecting to get from the trip. In fact, honestly, the most important thing is, are they coming to vacation, or are they coming to visit you and help you out? You have to know the difference. For me, right from the get-go, I knew that my parents were coming to vacation. I wanted them to come, have fun, enjoy themselves, like experience Canada. Like, it was something that was going to give me a lot of joy, that they visited Canada and they enjoyed themselves. But that's the thing, is someone is coming to vacation and you are the hotel staff, you are the financier, you are everything. So you have to have enough time and enough energy to make sure that they're actually getting to relax and enjoy their trip while they're here. So set expectations, and I think have the right expectations. For me, it was a lot of work, but I enjoyed that they were able to enjoy the experience. That was my goal, and I was happy that my sister and I were happy that we were able to achieve that. I think I've covered most of the things. I think also emergency plan, if possible, if you can have an emergency plan, like who is going to be there. I think for us, we didn't make any specific plans, but my sister having a flexible schedule was also very helpful. My spouse was able to come during his lunch hours, so once in a while he would check up on them and see, okay, are people doing fine? Having the camera to see where they were in the house and be like, okay, they look fine, they're okay, they're resting, was also very good. I said earlier, Alexa, because my parents are not tech people. But yeah, just having an emergency plan is good. Having your health insurance is good. So those, I think, are the things that I would say were the most important things. Some of them I already thought about before they came, like where they would visit, and but I honestly didn't think about everything. Like, just realize that depending on how independent they are will determine how much work you would have to put in. So you have to really gauge the situation, especially if this is their first visit. Honestly, if it's a repeat visit, they might have gotten a health issue in between the last time they were here and the time they are coming. So your experience in over multiple trips might be very different. So help them pack, plan their like return. It's also an emotional time because they are leaving. They hadn't seen us in such a long time, and it's very emotional. You know, I know they were sad to go, although I'm sure they were happy to go back to Nigeria and go back to the comfort of their bed and like the things that they are used to, the things that are familiar. Because as much as you like visiting Canada, I don't think it's every parent that wants to stay long term. It's a very emotional time, but I was really happy that they were here. I think if it's something that you can do, if you're settled enough to fund a trip for them to visit, I think it's something you should do. Everybody's family situation looks different. For some people, their parents are able to fund the trip. Honestly, I've met some people in Canada that their parents are the ones even funding them from Nigeria. Like their parents have so much money, they are the ones funding them here. So it's not their parents visiting, is their parents are going to spend more money here, not the other way around. While for some other people, you're the ones taking care of them. But whatever the situation is, it's such a nice time, especially if you've not seen them in a while. We have limited time with family, so something to prioritize. But yeah, of these points I've mentioned, bear them in mind, especially for Omugo people. I've had a lot of positive and negative Omugo experience, and I always feel like it is a situation of when expectation does not meet reality. So that Omugo own is a special time. If me, I can tell you there was a lot of work and I wasn't doing Omugo, then you can imagine if you're doing Omugo. So make sure that expectation and reality is matched. If it is, you're going to have a wonderful time uniting with your parents again. If you've watched this video up to this point, thank you again. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please engage, please comment. Tell me about your experiences when your parents came to visit. Are you in the process of planning their visit? What are you hearing here for the first time that you haven't necessarily actively thought about? I feel like I'm going to make a follow-up video on applying for a visitor's visa for your parents. Mine was approved very easily, but I have to settle down and get that together. I'll see you on my next video. Bye guys.